Good evening, everyone. And I want to welcome everyone to today's May Week panel. And before we get started, I definitely want to thank the women of the Portsmouth Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated for putting on such a truly timely discussion on AI. My name is Alina Jones, and I am your moderator for this amazing panelist. I am the CEO of Everyday Intelligence, and she builds with AI, and I'm so excited to be here. So today we have some amazing women who are inundated in this AI industry. And so we're going to have a great discussion and conversations with these women. And I want to give you just a little side note. What we're going to do is have a conversation. And then if you have any questions, we may or may not be able to get to questions, but we do have someone looking at your Facebook comments or feeds. So you want you to be interactive and engaging during this conversation. Okay? All right. So I'm going to introduce each of our panelists and get started with ready for have some fun. So let's get started, ladies. So the first one I'm going to introduce is Dr. E. Veal. And Dr. Veal, can you raise your hand? Dr. E. Veal is an AI ethics advocate who champions for responsible, ethical, and transparent use of data-driven technologies. She developed robust governance frameworks promoting transparency, fairness, privacy, and accountability in the AI systems, working at the intersection of technology, policy, and social impact. Dr. E. Veal has pioneered efforts to mitigate AI biases and risks while maximizing societal benefits. In her spare time, Dr. Veal serves as the non-technical lead for the DC chapter of Black Girls Code and sits on the technology committee for the South Atlantic region of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. She mentors women at historically Black colleges and universities and collaborates with schools and nonprofits to inspire students about STEM. She has also authored a book titled Shit, Now What? Becoming a New Adult. Wish I had that. And this is a guide for graduating women of color, navigating education, careers, and future planning. Her mission is to educate, empower unrepresented communities while protecting their data rights and their privacy. She holds a BS in applied mathematics and an MS in optical engineering and an MS in computer science from the Norfolk State University. She recently completed her PhD in organizational diversity, focusing on AI ethics and governance. So let's give it up for Dr. E. Veal. All right, next we have up Quisha Umimba. She is a CEO of Umimba Health, an AI-powered public health workforce development training and consulting firm that helps health-focused organizations and mission-driven leaders not only build, deliver, and also scale high-impact learning experiences using proven curriculum designs and AI innovation. She's a registered nurse, public health practitioner, Amazon best-selling author, and recognized as AI's literacy and workforce development expert. Quisha brings a rare blend of not only healthcare expertise, but also instructional innovation and AI fluency to every stage and classroom she steps into. She's widely known as the AI translator. She helps leaders cut through complexity to find clarity, position themselves, and understand that she is the missing piece of this AI puzzle. So let's welcome Quisha Umimba to the virtual stage. All right. And now we have Dr. Anna Thomas. Dr. Thomas is a board certified palliative care physician, workplace well-being strategist, and a two-time TED Talk speaker. She focuses on future of work, caregiving, workforce well-being, and ethical use of AI. She helps organizations better support employees navigating stress, caregiving responsibilities, and the rising workplace demands, while also exploring how AI can be used responsibly to improve human well-being and performance. Dr. Thomas is an AI consultant, certified by the American Board of Artificial Intelligence in Medicine, and XCM certified AI compliance professional as well. Through her work, she helps leaders and teams understand how to use AI in ways that support, strengthen workplace, and protects trust. So let's give it up for Dr. Anna Thomas. And I told you, these ladies are more than prepared to have this conversation with. Now, I want to tell you why I know this conversation is important. AI is not coming, it's here. And it is here to stay. And whether or not you're using AI or you think you're using AI, I can promise you you're already using AI, just you may be using it involuntarily. If you are using MapQuest, if you're using Siri, if you've ever done a search on your computer and said, hey, I'm looking for a red cocktail dress, and all of a sudden, guess what? Every time you log in, you see red cocktail dresses, you're already participating in the process. But we want to make sure that you understand what AI is, how can we use it, and better yet, how can we make sure that we are part of these conversations that need to happen now and in the future. So I'm going to get this party started, and I'm going to bat the first question over to Dr. Anna Thomas. And Dr. Thomas, we're going to talk briefly about well-being and health. So we already know for us on this panel, but for those who may not know, AI is already being utilized in our healthcare systems, from diagnosis to treatment recommendations. How can we use AI for our own well-being? And what are some ways that women can use AI to be more proactive?
Thank you so much for this great question. And thank you to everyone for being here and for inviting us to be here as part of this panel. You're absolutely right. AI is being used in healthcare in many different ways, from you're walking into the office, scheduling, documentation support. It's being used in diagnoses and radiology, dermatology. It's being used in lab settings to analyze data. It's being used in so many ways. But I think now is the time also for us as individuals to use as an opportunity to learn some of these AI skills for our own well-being and then for our own wellness. And I think the biggest application is probably for coordination and for scheduling to make our lives easier. For example, a lot of the work that I do is supporting working caregivers, people who are working full time and then going home every day to a double or a triple shift. And there are a lot of tools on the market right now available for coordinating, scheduling amongst different family members, understanding the health information. There are tools for life balance and self-coaching. There are ways that you can use AI to organize information, to keep track of appointments, manage priorities and productivity, to give you back your time. And I think in terms of well-being, especially for us as women, time is our most valuable asset. And if we can use AI to streamline some of our tasks so that we now have time to focus on our own health and our own well-being, I think that's probably the best way that you can use it.
Definitely. And I think I'm all about streamlining, and that's one of the great use cases of AI. Does anyone else have anything they want to add on healthcare? Because I know many of you do have a background in the healthcare space. So, what do you say about that?
Yeah. So can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I was thinking back to a report by the Kaiser Family Foundation. It's actually a couple of years old, but at that time, and it may be new stats of recent, I'm just not aware of it. 1 in 6 people, adults over 30, were using AI for health related purposes. So, we got ChatGPT Health, which has been rolled out to some people, and we've got Claude Health, and we've got all the, health components, right? And then under 30, 1 in 4. So we're talking about a quarter of the population that's using AI tools. And I'm in that quarter. I'm just going to say that, right? So I have used it personally to say, look at these medical records here and see if my physician has missed something or overlooked something, right? I know I have parents and family members that are using it to interpret lab results for them, right? Or to help them to use the chat feature to maybe draft a letter to the insurance to rebuttal, something, a determination or a decision or something like that. So I think we really need to realize that people are using it for health related purposes, whether that is helping me come up with menu items for this particular meal plan or a workout routine or whatever it is. And while that is helpful and beneficial, and especially if you have a medical background like most of us on this panel do, we can take that data and we can interpret it, and we know kind of like what looks funky, for lack of better words, and what doesn't. The concern that I have is the average person without that type of background does not. And I don't know if we'll get into that conversation or not, but I think it's very real that we state those statistics on the number of people that are using AI for health related purposes.
Oh, definitely. And I do, like you, I'm in that, that 1 in 4. I think I use it for everything, but even in recent visits, I'm putting my lab work in, saying, can you look at this and tell me what can I do lifestyle wise? Because we know that
Yes,
doctors,
yeah,
and I know Dr. Thomas, you don't have time with patients, right? And so when you go to the doctor, they got what, 10 minutes with you, maybe?
maybe.
But it gave me opportunity to look at it further and say, okay, well, maybe this is a lifestyle issue that maybe my doctor wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
Now, this leads me to a great question for Dr. Eville, because I know you are all about privacy, and that is really serious when we're looking at how we're using it currently in the healthcare space. And so, not just in the medical field, because we know that you have HIPAA regulations, and we want to be sensitive about what information we put out there. But every time we scroll, we search, we shop, we speak in our phones, we're generating data, right? So AI is using that data to build a profile of who we are, what we want, even how we think. So for Black and Brown women who have historically been surveilled, profiled, and targeted, this isn't abstract. I mean, this is our reality. What do we need to understand about how AI is watching us and what it's doing with the information that it's seeing about us?
Oh, fantastic. And thank you all for having me here as well. Um, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, honestly. There's something called the personalization paradox. And it is basically, in order to have a personalized experience, you have to give up your privacy and vice versa. So if you want privacy, you have to have a less personalized experience. And so with this, we start to have to think about like what things are we willing to sacrifice, what and how are we going to approach like tools and software that we have. So one of the things that I'm very passionate about data and like what data I'm giving away, because once that company has your data, they can do whatever they want with it. So for instance, if you're using something like a fitness tracker, it's very helpful, to help with you're sleeping properly and things like that. But also, this is not a hospital, it's not a doctor. They're not subjected to HIPAA, and because it's a tech organization. So if they ever get audited or if they ever merge with another company, they can do whatever they want with that data. And so now your data is now fueling something else. And so I am very passionate about like going into your settings and making sure that you're only releasing data that you want to have released and that you're comfortable with. And then when it comes to this environment where we are uh, building these personalized experiences, the thing that we need to be aware of is confirmation bias, because we're now are in bubbles that basically are everything that we like and that we love and that says yes and that like confirms the things that we believe in and things that we like. And it seems like every person that we interact with has the same beliefs and everything as we do, and that will require us to and that kind of just puts us in this our own little cloud nine, our own little heaven. And uh we are now in this false illusion that this is the real world. And in order to step outside of that bubble, we are going to have to be very intentional. We have to take steps to go outside and say, is this real life? Is this true? Is this actually something that that everybody is experiencing? Is this what the actual playing field is? One example is like with Spotify. I know a lot of people would like the Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year, and you see everything that you've done. But a lot of that is confirmation bias, because if your jam comes on, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna keep playing this. And in order to get new music, you have to step outside of your 4 songs that you can rock out to at any time, and and learn something new. And so that's harmless. But when it comes to something like politics, and you are seeing things that are just confirming your beliefs that like this is what's happening in the world, you have to step outside of that in order to make sure that the things that you're being fed is actually what's being what the whole world is actually experiencing.
Absolutely. So definitely being very intentional about what we're putting out there into this sphere of whether it's even just social media in general, with the AI space, what we're putting online. And I will put one note, I'm sure all of you would agree, that we also have to consider when we're using these tools, they're giving it away for free for a reason, right? So many of them, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, they all have a free level. And while they're wonderful, but we do believe that when they make it free, you no longer own what you are training these models to do. So I think that's important for people to know that although these tools are amazing, you probably wouldn't put anything out there like your social security number, your anything that would identify you, your records in these spaces, because you no longer own it at all. And I do think, we use the example in one of our trainings that we're building this airplane while we're on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Great point. I wanna, Dr. E, was that privacy personalized? Say all those P's for me. I wrote it down.
I got you, girl. Absolutely. It is the personalization privacy paradox.
I love that because this is the truth. AI has the opportunity to make life a lot easier, right? When I'm shopping, or if I'm on Netflix, it says you might want to watch this, right? I love that it knows I'm watching serial killer documentaries, and it's going to recommend the next one. I love that. But it also is because I share that data, and I think that a lot of conspiracy theorists, they need to understand that some of these tools that do make our life easier, we're gonna have to share some data. But I love, Alina, that you said you're not putting your social security in there anyway. Even when I put my lab results and all that, I black out or I remove everything, or I just copy and paste the numbers and say, using this data, what are the insights that are, that I might be missing, or that I should speak to my doctor about, or something like that. So that was a great point that you brought up there, Alina. Thank you so much.
And I just want to add to that. So absolutely what you said, don't just take a copy, a screenshot of your health records or your financial records and just upload that in. Even if you're using the paid version of ChatGPT or Claude, I still would not recommend that you do that. The other thing about it is the AI tool is only going to be as good as the information that it's been given, not just the information that you provided, but also where is it getting its knowledge from. So it can give you wrong information because it may not have the full context. You're not going to upload your entire 30, 40 years of your medical history in there. It's not going to have that full context. So it could miss things. So it's important that, and this is true whether it's healthcare or for any other reason, that we are thinking critically about the output, what it's giving us, so that we are not making our decisions purely based on the information that AI gives us. This is true for health information. This is true for education, IT, law, all areas. We need to make sure that we are thinking critically about the information that is coming to us before we start using it blindly.
Absolutely. And look, that pivots very well to the next question, because you kind of brought up when we're talking about AI literacy, because we use the term AI hallucinations, that it's going to fill in missing pieces of information that may or may not be true. Definitely sometimes is not accurate. So my question is going to be for Quisha, what does AI literacy education look like when it's done well? When it's done well, and where does it usually go wrong?
Yeah. So when it's done well and it's practical, you know when to use AI, and you also know when not to use AI, because you don't use AI just for AI's sake. We know that AI makes things faster, right? But we don't also just use AI just for the sake of making things faster. So I would say that is in its simplest terms, when you know AI literacy is done right, you have the person, the user, really contemplating, is this the best use case for me to be using AI in this scenario? And are they using the right tool? What I see when I work with organizations is they'll say like, hey, everybody's got a Microsoft Copilot license, go ahead and use it. But nobody's been trained on how to use the tool, right? And sometimes, yeah, you may have it at your disposal, but does it work for your particular job description? Does it work for your department? Does it work for your workflows? And speaking of workflows, one of the things that I have found is that um, is there's a difference in using a tool for a task, but you optimize or you 10x AI when you use it for a workflow. And I don't think a lot of people understand what that looks like. And a workflow could be several different steps using the same task or several different steps using different AI tools or different tools in general. So hopefully that was the first part of the question. What was the second part of your question?
And where does it usually go wrong? So kind of piggybacking on what you're
Oh,
saying.
yeah, the biggest thing is, and I've talked to college students, I've talked to my son who's 16, I've talked to employees. The biggest thing is they said we could use this tool, whether it's ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, whatever it is, but nobody gave us the training on how to use this tool. And there's no shared language, there's no policy. There are conversations on, a few things on kind of guidance, but it's not written in stone. It wasn't piloted first and then a smooth rollout. So it's very kind of chaotic. The managers assume that the staff know what they're doing. Some of the staff are pro AI and early adopters, and they've been using it the last 2 years.
Mhm.
And some of the staff are like, I'm not using that because they are I had somebody unenroll from one of my courses recently. I don't know why, because AI is all over everything. But the response was there's your courses use AI features. So some people are very, very anti-AI. And so when you have that in your staff, you've got these very late adopters or against it, and you got these, early adopters, and then there's no guidance. It's chaos.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're responsible. Like AI is not responsible. If there is a mistake, if there is something that's put out, if the wrong language or something affects someone in your community or whatever, you're ultimately responsible. The organization is responsible. The AI is not responsible. So just off the top of my head, those are a few of the things that I see when it comes to AI literacy and the rollout.
Definitely. And just to piggyback, I know we won't go into too much detail, but I do know they're using it and they will be using it shortly for everything from home loan approvals, for we know it's talking about medical field diagnosis. They're going to use it in education. So to avoid it
Mhm.
is not going to be the best strategy, right? I think we all agree. But understanding how to utilize it and utilize it properly is going to be the thing that we have to make sure our community understands.
Have to, because so there's kind of two schools of thought. We've all heard, oh, AI is going to replace us, right? I like to play devil's advocate. So I say now, if AI replaces your job, it probably should have anyway. But I know that sounds harsh to say. Um, I think people have to really rethink and reimagine. I think I like that word better. Reimagine what education and school looks like. I did one of these panels a couple of weeks ago, and someone in the audience said, I'm really concerned that as my college age child gets out of college and starts work, like they're going to miss the foundational competencies that they would normally learn when they go work at a job. And my response was, we have to rethink what work is going to look like. In the same way, I mean, I don't do math on hand. It's all here on my phone, right? In the same way, that's how we do math now. It's some things that they're going to skip. This is going to be in school. This is going to be in the workplace. It's just how it's going to be. So I agree. People, although I respect, whatever decision, and if they're not on board yet, I certainly totally respect that. But I do think it is going to be harder for them as far as being marketable, competitive, and just being able to navigate through the world, because like you said, it's being baked into everything now. It is going to be more difficult.
I
Definitely.
like to to use a corporate term, double click into when you were talking about job replacement. One of the things that I'd like to the analogy or the story I like to tell when it comes to like job replacement and things like that, because that's the scary part. That's why a lot of people are like resistant to it, because you're like, this is what I know, this is what I know how to do, and now you're telling me a tool is going to come in and like take over. But this is not the first time we've experienced this as a human race, right? This is just like on a grander scale maybe, but it's not the first time. As Quisha just mentioned, like calculators are a thing that we use now. We don't use abacuses anymore. Probably the last time we had such a big shift in the industry was like the Industrial Revolution, and where we may not have people that are by hand doing things anymore, and we have like machines doing that. The job market just changed. And I wanted to say, like, when I was thinking about these questions, I was like, we don't have minors anymore, but we do. It's just that the idea of a minor in 1837 is different from a minor here in 2026. Like, the job still exists. Is it has been reimagined, as she mentioned, right? And that is what we have to think about. Like, our jobs just need to be reimagined. We're just going to have to step into these roles and think about things differently. And so the way that I would say, and we've said this numerous times on this call, like AI is a tool and it's not like a sentient being. And so it's a tool that we need to learn how to use, just like we would use a wrench, a calculator, or anything else. We need to know how to use it. And two ways that I see leveraging the initial ways that I would say you can start looking at this as a tool. First is as a thought partner. That's a fancy way of just saying somebody that knows a lot more than you.
Perfect.
And then on the flip side, the dumb intern, somebody that just can do the minor stuff that you don't want to do. And the example I would like to give here is, say, if you are in charge of a project. So just recently, I had to come up with a way to streamline lost and found for the Delta Regional Convention. And I knew I had a plan. And so I was like, all right, these are the things that I want. This is what I know about it. AI, you be my thought partner and ask me questions that help me like smooth this whole thing out and fill in the gaps that I may have missed. And then after I come up with this plan, then I'll give it to my dumb intern and I say, write this up, create a form for me. Like, that's what I have my dumb intern do. But my thought part, so it's one tool that can do two vastly different things. And I still am the precipice of the job. Like, I am still in charge of the project. I'm still the one. It's just that I have offloaded some things to this tool to help me be the better version of me, because I am here to do the more strategic things that I'm good at.
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about how do we reimagine what we're using it for. And I love to be very practical. All of us in this panel, we're AI consultants in different industries, but even in everyday life, something small. If you're not working, maybe you're blessed enough you're retired already.
Mm.
I want to be there, but I've used it to take a menu and say, look, this is my budget for the week. Avoid mushrooms, 'cause I don't eat mushrooms. I shop particularly at this store, and I want you to look at the ads that are in the circular this week and give me a budget or a meal plan for this week based on me feeding two people. So it's helped with very practical ways that I think many people may not know to utilize.
You
Right?
could also take a picture of things that's in your refrigerator and be like, what can I make for dinner tonight? Mine
Yes.
will be like, girl, you need some food. You only got drinks in here. What you doing?
Water. That's
Water.
right.
That's what you drink.
Yeah,
That's what you're eating tonight.
that's right. And that leads me really to another question, Dr. Veal, since I already have you. You briefly talked about how you could utilize it for jobs. What would you say for that woman who was transitioning? Maybe she's in mid-career. because we talked about those who come right out. We've seen the news of those who are recent graduates of college. But how about those women who are mid-career? They've been in the same job for 15 years or reinventing themselves. How should they look at AI specifically for that group as a tool that they kind of have to just jump in? Because I know you mentioned the other, like the industrial area. I think the difference is we had time. Like it didn't happen so fast. It didn't happen so rapidly. And we're in this space and every day something changes, right? So what can that career woman do or that person who's doing a mid-career change?
Great question. The first thing I would say is breathe, because a lot of times what happens is we just get overwhelmed. There's so much coming at us, and we think that everything's moving faster than it really is. And personally, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think that this is a universal imposter syndrome. I feel like everybody thinks that AI is moving at the speed of light,
Mhm.
and everybody is kind of at the same level. Everybody's kind of still at first base when everybody feels like we're sliding up to do a home run. Is that the right sport? I don't know sports. But anyway, so I am I would say stop, take a breath, and then take a crawl, walk, run approach. People who know me know I love a crawl, walk, run approach. And the thought process is like figure out where you want to focus your attention. So all of us here on this panel, we know AI, but we all have our niche in which we know AI and the things that we know. And so AI, you can look at that just the same way that you would look at law or medicine. Like when somebody say, I'm going into medicine, you'd be like, what field? Are you doing internal medicine? Are you doing pediatrics, or orthopedics? Like it's such a vast thing. Law, are you doing real estate law, finance, estate planning? What are you doing? So when you approach it, first think, where do I want to focus my attention? And then you keep narrowing it down, because that's what we've all done here, whether we consciously did it or not. That's what we did. We figured out, what is it that I am passionate about? What do I want to learn about? And then break it down and then figure out what your sector of AI is going to be. And then start that crawl, walk, run approach where I would say if you're going to learn how to use these models like OpenAI or Anthropic or Gemini and things like that, then learn how to do prompt engineering. Just learn how to create a good prompt, understand what it means to make prompts. Maybe the next step would be to create a small AI agent. I think that would start to give you a little insight into how these tools work, and then it'll help you figure out what your area of expertise will be, and just remember that you aren't doing this alone. There's different ways to get help and to get assistance. There's you can even use AI and I'm like, write me a plan for 30 days on how to get to this step to learn this thing. It will pull resources from like say YouTube, from research papers, which I really, really think that you should start reading research papers, simply because that's where there's a lot of people that are giving you information. And again, that's where you have to do that extra step of being intentional about reviewing what they said. Even us here on this panel, if we've said something that's interesting to you and you're like, hey, I want to know more about this, probably Quisha just said it was like, what's that again? Because she probably gonna go off
You
and read it
know it.
herself.
You already know it.
And that's what we've learned here in the AI space, is that you can't believe everything that you hear. And then and I mean, it's sad to be in this space, but that's where it is. And it's kind of like what we've all kind of been saying, where you can put your information in, but there's hallucination. It can sound real good. It's a con man for sure. It can sound real good if you don't know what you're supposed to be listening for. And that's where that expertise come in. I don't remember what the question was. So I'm gonna let you.
But you was on right. We're on the right train, and to what you're saying, and I'm gonna fill us in just for someone because I know everyone who's participate in this conversation. They may be at different levels. So she mentioned prompt. So prompts are basically what you put into the system to get an output. And so it's one of those things like riding a bike. Once you do it, you get better and better at it. I remember when I put my first prompt, I got probably some generic answer. It's like, a Google search, right? And then as you get better, the more detailed your prompt is, the more guided your prompt is, the better your results are going to be. So a prompt is what you're putting into the system that you're asking for feedback on. And then AI agents. Agents are tools that could y'all help me out here, but the agents allow you to take tasks that would normally be something that maybe your judgment doesn't necessarily be involved in. Maybe you want to say, when I send this out, send this or verify this for me, or a task you want to kind of send off to the side. Remember, she mentioned the blonde assistant. Did you say dumb blonde assistant? Well, let's go
Dumb
with
intern. Dumb intern.
the dumb intern. Let's go with the dumb intern. The
Well,
dumb intern.
Look, I don't talk to my AI like that in case they revolt, but this if she want to call it.
That's right. Let's go with it. But she said the dumb assistant, something that is very a task that requires your time, certainly, but it's not making a judgment call. It's not, costing you money. It may taking your time. So something you kind of offload to say, this is something
Autonomously.
I need to be really involved in. Like checking through my emails and getting rid of some of these spam. It worked
Absolutely.
amazing for that. Okay.
Can I add something, Alina? I know we're running
Yeah,
short on time, but I just
of
wanted
course.
to just kind of a little bit for people that are in their role and they're like, I'm good where I'm at. I don't want to go anywhere else. I would recommend to AI proof your current position. You
Mm,
can also use an AI tool to do that as well. Upload your job description if you want to upload your resume also. And you can ask like, I want to ensure that my job is safe from AI. So what tasks do I need to offload? Tasks that AI can do, what still needs to remain in my possession as a human, those skills and qualities that we cannot give to AI. But I think that is the first step, is first of all, for those that are concerned that AI may take their role or position, is audit your role for AI. And then the next prompt or the next activity is then asking AI, what are some things that I can do in this particular role to enhance what I'm doing using AI tools? Because as someone that, not only trains workforce, but I hire people as well, I don't even hire virtual assistants, instructors, and I don't even hire you if you don't know how to use AI anymore. And a lot of managers that is the mentality for a lot of organizations. Like, we want you to know how to use AI. We want you to be more productive. We want you to produce better quality, products, whatever it is. So anyway, I just wanted to say those two things. So AI proof your position and then find ways to enhance what you're already doing with AI tools.
absolutely. That's a gem. I love that. The AI audit. So the audience, if you didn't pick up what she just said, you can literally take your job description, what you're currently doing, or if you're in between jobs, maybe your resume, and you can say, how can I AI proof my job? Or what am I doing right now that could be better off load to AI? Absolutely. That's amazing. Absolutely. So, Dr. Thomas, so we're talking about AI, we're talking about the workforce. Now let's get to our babies, because we know that even for all of us, AI is changing how we learn, how we teach, and how children are being prepared for the future. So, are our schools and our communities keeping up? And if not, if we don't keep up, what does that cost our kids?
Oh, such an important question. And I'm going to answer this from the perspective of being a physician who has spent way too much time in school, but also the perspective of a parent of young kids. So just to piggyback on what Quisha said earlier, I think it's so important for all of us to learn how to AI proof our jobs. So even in medicine, as a physician, I have been taking upon myself to learn about AI and compliance and ethics and how it's impacting healthcare, because it's important for me to understand how it's going to impact my job and so that I can get ahead of the curve. Now is the time to get ahead of the curve. In terms of schools, and especially for school-age children, it depends, of course, what age group you're talking about. I have little kids, elementary school kids. it's really important that our kids don't get behind, because AI is moving fast. And if our children aren't prepared for the world that they're going to graduate into and have to use AI, they are going to be at a disadvantage. However, I think it's also important that our children have the critical thinking and the skill sets. My daughter, she's in third grade. I do not want her to learn how to use a calculator before she learns how to add and subtract herself. She needs to learn those basic skills. She needs to learn how to go to a book and read an article and take notes and compose like a paragraph to explain what she read before she learns how to use ChatGPT to spit out an answer. She needs to learn those critical thinking skills for how to ask good questions, how to recognize if what we're looking at, is it real? Is it accurate? And learn how to think creatively. So I think those are all skill sets that our schools absolutely need to do alongside gradual graded AI integration, so that by the time our children are graduating high school and college, now they have the skill sets to be able to use all of their skill sets plus AI. So for example, for me, if AI stopped tomorrow, I still have all of my medical knowledge. I still know how to do my job, but AI will just make me do it in a way that is enhanced, faster, better. And that's the goal.
Absolutely. And I want the other panelists to chime in too. And I would tell parents, grandparents, when it comes to AI and our children, just like you wouldn't give your third grader keys to the car, we don't give them tools without being parentally involved. This is not something we want our kids necessarily learning on their own, because keep in mind, if we thought social media was exposing our kids to the unknown, AI will expose kids, and you may not understand what system they're on, where the information is coming from. Remember, we talked about AI giving you more of what you're putting in, and we know how important their brains are being shaped, and they're only getting one-sided information or views that could be dangerous as well. So I think it's important to note that it does require parental involvement at home. You know, maybe they're using AI in front of you for a set period of time, and you're asking them, so what did you learn today? Or how did you use this tool? More guidance, and not just giving them a tool and hoping they figure it out. Anybody want to chime on that? Dr. Veal, because I know privacy is your thing.
It is. It truly is. And I really like what Dr. Thomas said, where we all learn how to add and subtract before they give us a calculator.
Absolutely.
And that is very true when it comes to these AI tools. We need to teach data security now, and that's something that parents will need to learn about data security, understanding like the one thing that I'm always doing whenever I get a new tool, a new app, a new anything, is I'll go into my settings and I will change all of my settings, specifically for things that are like Claude and ChatGPT, making sure that my data doesn't go out. I still don't trust it, but still I make sure I do the settings, because what we have been trained to understand is that we operate in an opt-out society, meaning that everything's always turned on. And instead of us opting into things, they get us hooked on the personalization of it all. And once we get hooked on that and things are easy, and it's like, well, I'm not going to go through all these menus just to turn something off. And they know that we're lazy. And so teaching children early on that you need to care about your data, because who knows what's going to happen when your children are, 20 years old, and what the world is going to look like, and where their data, where their data is going to be, and what the laws governing that data is going to be. And right now there's a gap between regulation and what's happening today. The technology is moving so quickly that regulations can't keep up with it. And we've all lived in the America is like a corporation has the advantage all the time. And so whatever way that you can like protect yourself, protect your children. And I think that's something else that we are just not aware of, is that you as a parent, you are in charge of your child's data until they are old enough to take care of it themselves. And so giving them that the education on what that means is important. And also like understanding what it means to put something on social media. So like for instance, for Black Girls Code, I had everybody draw a sneaker and I was like, put your heart into it, put your heart and soul into it. And they did, and they made these beautiful shoes. And then I had everybody go around and destroy, like just write on there. I was like, because that's what happens when you put something online. Anybody can do anything with it. If this video, somebody can go take this whole video, put it in AI, and we could all be talking Spanish in a few minutes, right? We have to be very conscious about what we put online. They can use this video that we're on right now and take our voice and make deep fakes. They can do all of these things. And if we're not aware, if we're not thinking about it in that sense and making sure that our children who are more savvy than we are with these tools, that they're not thinking about these things early on, then they can be susceptible and won't and will not be able to run for president, be the governor, like change the world because they have something from their past haunting them.
A good way to look at it. And we do have a question from the audience, and I know we briefly talked about it, but they were talking about with the abundance of information that's out there, how do we ensure the sources or the data that's giving you the output is authentic and validated? I'll just say briefly, I push back on any model I'm using. So I asked, what's the source? Can you give me 2 or 3 sources to make sure that it's not one hallucinating, or I want to verify it was a reputable source. So I push back whenever I get an answer, especially when I'm doing something research based of where they got the information from. How about for you? What do you do when you want to make sure the source is valid?
That's a fantastic way of doing it because I'd be like, girl, where you get this from? I stay calling my AI girl. Like, girl, where you get this? Where is this? And they'd be like, you're right. I'm like, I know I'm right.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a way of doing it. Overall, we can't say what the models are trained on and things like that. Like that's long gone. There's nothing we can really do about that unless you make your own LLM, your large language model. But we ain't nobody got time for that. But yes, that's a fantastic way of verifying, especially if you're like, I don't know where this is, doing that extra step, right? It's always doing that extra step of making sure that you are a little bit more intentional and that you're and then click on the link because the link might not work.
That's right.
Click that link.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you. Quisha, I'm going to head back to you for this question.
Okay.
Because we were on a panel and we're talking about privacy and we're talking about how to better use it. And you spoke about AI being the civil rights being the civil rights issue in our current era. Can you just give us some insight on?
Yeah, so I did do a talk about that. What was that? Was that in February or March? I said AI is the civil rights issue of the digital era. There's something called the Great Divide. When you think back to like the internet, people that took hold of it, they were able to use it, they were able to monetize, they were able to have a, better income, better way of life. And so I can't remember how Dr. E said it earlier, but she talked about like this is like the biggest thing since the Industrial Revolution, right? And so just like then, just like with the internet, just like now, when you have major events like this, there are winners, there are losers, there are late adopters, early adopters, right? There are people that are going to benefit, there are people that are not going to benefit. And I can get into a whole like the whole public health thing, but I won't, right? So for me, it's a big concern, especially when we talk about Black and Brown communities, that if we do not take hold to this and learn how to use it to our advantage. And I already spoke about the fact that we're not going to be as competitive, we're not going to be as marketable in the job field. Then that's ultimately going to have a direct effect on our quality of life and where what we achieve in life and how far we go, right? And so I think I'm so glad you asked me this question. I didn't even know this was a question. I actually pulled up something from the other question that Dr. Anna answered because I wanted to read it. And this is actually from another presentation that I did, but I'm gonna read a little bit of this, and it's going to answer this question perfectly. And so it says, AI is a bigger shift in the internet. If Black communities, Black and Brown communities, are not learning AI, shaping AI, and influencing the AI and how it's used in health, education, and business, we risk being on the receiving end of the decisions that we did not help design. This affects who gets hired, who gets funded, who gets seen, who gets care, whose data matters, whose voice counts, and that ultimately affects our children. If our kids do not understand AI, they are competing or will compete in a workforce that is shaped by the people who do. And if our communities do not understand AI, health decisions may be made using systems that we don't know how to question. So it's a huge divide. It's a big civil rights issue. And I think there's multiple civil rights issue baked into it. But that is the one that concerns me the most. I know I had a conversation with my 16-year-old maybe last week. He's always wanted to be a lawyer, and of course, he wants to be an entrepreneur now because he wants to follow in mom's footsteps. And I said, son, if you change your major, which at this point, I don't know if I want to spend $200K for a college degree and everybody writing their papers with ChatGPT, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I told him, son, if you want to continue to go to college, you gotta stick with the lawyer track, or you got to be a doctor, or you got to be some type, I can't remember what kind of engineer. Like, you really have to AI proof your degree, because there's no sense in spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and then getting a degree that's going to be obsolete. So that's what I meant when I did that talk. And that's why I say I think it is going to be like the civil rights issue of the digital era.
And I just want to add one thing to that. I'm so glad you said that, because not only all of the things that Quisha just said, but it also impacts our community in the sense of like the environment. So a lot of times data centers are being
I was
built
trying not to go there.
Girl,
Go there.
Data centers are built in Black and Brown communities, and communities where AI is used the least, and we suffer the most. And they package it and say, oh, we're bringing jobs, but what ends up happening is our water supply gets low. We end up with a heat index that's out of control. We now the housing is now is unattainable and things like that. We need to be a little bit more cognizant of like the impacts of AI in the Black and Brown communities, specifically because they think that we're ignorant to AI. They feel like they can just, put a little seasoning on it and call it Lawry's, and it's not.
That's right. And I think both of you made a great point. I remember, I'm not sure who came or coined this phrase, but I really believe that either we're going to be at the table or you're going to be on the menu. So that was good, wasn't it, Dr. E? So you're going to either be, we have to be at the table or we're going to be the menu. And I know, especially for Portsmouth, as I'm going to put this out because I'm born and raised in Portsmouth, we saw electricity bills that were 100% what they were last year the same time because of data centers. And then the electric companies, they came back with a response, we're going to pay our fair share, or the data centers will pay their fair share. But we're seeing that even as we speak right now in Portsmouth about the harm that is causing our communities, and in most cases aren't the ones who can afford to be penalized with the cost of energy bills, the water supply systems, and all of that. So, I mean, that was, I think, a conversation we need to have, and we need to make sure that everyone who's paying attention, they use their voice and they show up and they pull their seat up at the table. Okay. Now, I know we have 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we definitely go over this last 5 minutes left for these last questions. So if you could give every woman or man who's listening one thing they could do this week, so make it practical, one thing they can do this week to show up better in this AI space, what would that be? Okay, and I'm going to start with Dr. Thomas.
So I would say do not be afraid to experiment a little bit with AI. You don't have to be a software engineer, an IT professional to experiment a little bit. You can go into your AI tool of choice like ChatGPT and you can literally ask it to teach you. How do I prompt better? How do I use this? How do I walk me through it step by step? And I think if we can take some baby steps just to learn a little bit more, that will help us improve our own comfort level with using this technology. Because as what was said before, it's really important for us to use AI to improve our own skill set, to protect our own jobs, and then as we get more knowledgeable about it, use it to advocate for our communities in a stronger way. So
Definitely.
experiment a little bit.
Definitely. Wonderful. And I'm going to go over to my girl, Quisha.
That was great. I'm gonna follow up to say change your mindset, be open. Again, I respect everybody's decision, whether you want to use or don't use. At Remember Health, we lead with something called AI stewardship. And so a lot of times when I'm doing training, talking to people, they think it's either inherently good or bad or magic or all the things. And the truth is AI is good and bad. It's all in the hands of the holder, right? It's how you use it. But if you are a good steward, as you should be a good steward of all things, if you are a good steward of AI, that means that you use it with care, with intentionality, with purpose, right? And so I would change your mindset to see or, listen to other people to see how it is improving life, how it is improving business. I know we didn't even have time to talk about how crazy it is for leveraging business, especially if you're a solopreneur or small business owner. But just be open to it. That's the first step, I think. It's not perfect. If you tried one prompt and it gave you rubbish, I promise you it's supposed to. Like it's not, it doesn't work like that, right? It's not magic. So just be mindful, be patient. There's a saying we have in the community, Alina, you know it. It's AI moves at the speed of AI. If
That's
you
right.
tried a particular platform this week, guess what? I promise you next month it's going to be better or they're going to have another version of it, right? So be patient. It's not perfect, but it is a tool that is here to help us leverage the things that we do in our daily lives and work.
Absolutely. Dr. Eville.
And you can all probably guess what I'm going to say is protect yourself. Make sure that you are going into your settings and whatever tool you have, whatever is smart, start with your phone. Like go into your settings, push the buttons. That's what I do. Like whenever I get in a car or I get any new thing, I push all the buttons. I want to know what it does. And where's my why you need this? Why is this on? Ask that question more often. Why be curious? I guess that's what I would say. So yeah, I think that as you're experimenting, as I use it every day, so I know I'm talking about, like, I know it seems like I'm like anti-AI. I'm not. I use it every day. I started with like AI note takers. If you are in meetings constantly, I'm telling you, especially for people who are who are neurodiverse, um, AI has been a game changer for people that can't process information quickly, especially when it's a note taker. It can bring that information in. So I would say if you know protect yourself and your data, and yeah, like Anna was saying, experiment, and like Quisha was saying, be open to the possibilities.
Wonderful. And so, as we wrap this up, I definitely, one, personally want to thank these panelists. I knew when this group came together, I knew that these women had the background, they had the knowledge, they had the passion for this AI industry. So I feel privileged to call you all colleagues in that space. So I want to thank you all. For our listening audience, I tell you, share this with other people. Every one of the panelists in the show notes is going to give you a link on how you can stay connected to us, because we're doing some amazing things in this space. And it is my sincere desire and passion that no Black or brown person is left behind if they so choose not to be. And so you have community. So go to the show notes, Follow us on our websites, on LinkedIn pages. That's going to be listed available for you, because we just really didn't even scratch the surface of this AI conversation, right? We could talk about it for days, y'all. But I want to thank you all for your time, and for volunteering your service and your expertise. And then to the amazing women of the Portsmouth chapter, alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. Thank you for understanding just how important it is to have these conversations with our community. We have to show up. We have to be involved. We have to be engaged. And as we talked about, and I'll leave it here, this will not be for us who know. We cannot allow this to be the civil rights issue in our area if we're not actively participating in making sure that we're benefiting from this. All right. So I thank you all for your time. I thank you for your attention. I hope you were able to get something out of this. Share this feed with other people who need to know. And I want to thank you for your time, and y'all have a good rest of your Tuesday.